Hi, I'm Anis Audi. I'm the game division manager, and today I'm going to be explaining some of the hunting cougar options that we have coming up in front of the commission soon. We also have on our website how we currently manage cougars, so please go to that link and check that out if you're interested. And so the reason we're asking for your comment is we do want to hear from our public what they think about how we hunt cougars and maybe how we should be hunting cougars. So please take the time to comment. We made these different options because we heard from our folks that are concerned about cougar numbers, and so please help us make a good decision. So all of the options that we put forward are designed with cougar conservation in mind. We don't want to harm any cougar populations, and we're trying to maintain any of our options within the science that we know. The first option is basically status quo, which is similar to what we have done in the past, where we set guidelines based on a mean or a median. In the past we've used the mean. This time we're going to be using the median because it is a more representative of what's actually out there. And so we use a median, we calculate the density of cougars in an area based on that median, and then we set our guidelines based on a 12 to 16% range, which is the rate of growth of those populations. So that's option one. Our second option is very similar to the first option, except we only use adult cougars to calculate the density of cougars on the landscape. So those are cougars that are 24 months or older. So we only calculate the guideline using adult cougars, which will reduce it slightly from the first option, but we only count adult cougars towards the guideline as well. So that has a potential to extend the season, but it's all dependent on what gets harvested. And currently, from looking at our data, about 30% of our harvest is sub-adults. So if we take that and extrapolate it forwards, there is a potential in some units to harvest 30% more, which would extend the season into that later season. So option number three is basically looking at those units that have traditionally closed January 1st and looking at what level of guideline would be needed to keep them open at least 4 out of 5 years. So what we did is we looked back 5 years into the data and saw what the highest harvest was when the unit closed and set the guideline at that level. So it would assure, or it would make it more likely that those units would remain open at least 4 out of 5 years. There is an assumption that density is higher in those units. Now that assumption may be true or it may not be true, but we know it's still within a range that's possible for cougar densities in the West. So we looked at all the literature, and we are trying to keep it between around that 4 cougars per 100 square kilometers. So there are a couple of units where if we did take the highest harvest, it actually would have exceeded that 4 cougars per 100 square kilometers. So we backed it off on those 2 units to keep it within that range to make sure that we're not harming any cougar populations. So option number 4 is similar to option number 3, but we use the adults only to calculate the density after the fact. And we also only count adults towards the guidelines. So that has a potential to increase harvest additionally to option 3. So with each of these options, there is a potential for additional harvest. So it goes from status quo to basically setting guidelines that are higher in those units where we've had high harvest. With all these options, we're asking for public comment, and the comment period will open February 6th, and then we'll be open for 3 weeks after that. And then we will also take public comment at our March commission meeting in Kennewick.